protected for creativity. Don't copy that floppy was when floppies were new. Now we copy much more than floppies could do.
Okay, what the hell am I doing? This video is a follow-on from another, covering the same mode of the same game. I'd recommend watching that one first, as this builds upon it. But for a quick refresher, hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades is a virtual weapons range with a large variety of guns, spaces, and games. From the grounded to the gonzo. It's a fine package you can lose many, many hours to. And that's before we get to Take and Hold. A seemingly simple roguelite mode where we get a starter weapon and have to navigate a dangerous labyrinth filled with deadly sausages. By clearing encryptions, a wave defense followed by a test of target shooting, we get credits to buy more guns, nab attachments, get power-ups, and face tougher encryptions against deadlier foes. Skillful kills and deft decryption gets you a higher score. The weapon variety is staggering, the enemies are surprisingly dynamic and can be very dangerous, and the skill ceiling is incredibly high. I can easily say this is my favourite VR combat, and it's had that spot for some time.
Clock it out.
The combination of intricate weapon handling mechanics and the fast-paced sort of slapstick combat go together beautifully, giving the player a ton of options and making mastering any one weapon incredibly rewarding. So, seeing as this video is a follow-up, I'm going to talk about additions and changes to the mode, my developing skill, and a community that has formed around the game. This won't cover everything. Anton simply adds too much for me to cover all of it, but that's what the devlogs are for. I'll be covering what's relevant to myself and talking about how things are. Before we get to the core gameplay changes, let's start with some side stuff. First up, the spectator menu, allowing the player to set up cameras or change the perspective for recording or streaming. It's got a good variety of options and is a handy tool for content creators. I can put the game in third person and remain totally immersed beating meat in my headset. I do wish the Handycam the game offers had a built-on viewfinder I could flip on and off so I didn't need to keep going back to that menu to check it, but it's fine. I'd likely never get a good shot myself anyway. And the good news is, you can use the camera to beat up sausages. Secondly, and well, this is the big one, modding. When I first covered H3VR, Anton Hand, the big cheese, was skeptical of modding, to put it lightly. This didn't stop a mod community from forming, and in the time since, Anton reached out to them, and they've been able to lay down boundaries and come to agreements. Mods are now a part of the game with his blessing and cooperation. We spent ages waiting for a second Take and Hold map, and well, we got one. It's okay. A port from another mode and a bit too big for my tastes. But hey, there's now a reason to buy scopes. Well, if your hands don't shake like mine do. What the core map lacked was real long-distance combat, and now we've got that. Plus, the new grapple hook does help a bit with those big distances. But, well, unofficially, there isn't just a second map. There's a third, fourth, fifth. There's loads. It's not just maps. Game behavior mods, extra tools, more characters, more weapons. It turns out the Dragon Slayer is sort of impractical, but the Zapper cleans up well. Now, I've had a lot of fun in the hallways. This simple map with boxy rooms was doing fine on the strength of its combat. Being a score attack game, repetition is more than repetition. It's refinement of skill. But this is also a combat sim. More scenarios means more combat to simulate. We now have more combat rooms with more complex or spacious architectures. Space stations where you're encouraged to turn the gravity down and tear some sausages up. World War II towns to really take the mid-century loadout for a spin in an appropriate setting. The John Wick mansion to relive the movie. I will knock this map because the furniture looks like the boxes, so I keep shooting them. But it also has an amazing Easter egg I won't spoil. You'll find it, don't worry. A hotel with intense room-to-room combat and breakable windows to throw sausages out of. And my favourite, an entire city block with a mix of close, medium and long range. Working subway stations and rooftops to scale and throw sausages off of. I really like just throwing things off of things.
Over there.
Plus, this map is just gorgeous. I really enjoy wandering it. Not so fun fact about myself. I have mild batophobia, an irrational fear of being near tall objects. This map sets it off to some extent. and being on rooftops in this map also makes me dizzy in the same way it does in real life. So this map is effective. These are some of my favourite maps. Sadly, Worst War 2 is a little laggy, and there are some hiccups with custom maps. Some of the bigger ones can be a slog to navigate. On the smaller maps, later rounds will have so many patrols packed so close together that it's near impossible to catch your breath and sneak around unwanted encounters. There have also been new characters added, both officially and otherwise, who change game behaviour and sometimes bring new foes. These are a little more straightforward and sometimes can't fully do what they set out to. That John Wick mansion, there's a character for it. We also have Hotline Heather, encouraged with limited ammo. This is about scrounging weapons as foes drop guns and mags. This is a cool idea that's a bit too fiddly. Meat Fortress Fred just feels like it should be official. It incorporates the Meat Fortress mode into Taken Hold. It's really difficult, it's not very well balanced, but it's a lot of fun. Then we have the best. Completely fucked Carl. Low-cost weapons, enemies from different gangs and in great numbers, and only static encryption. This is non-stop slaughter of low-powered but numerous enemies. Okay, with that out of the way, let's move on to the meat of the matter. Enemies have gotten faster, smarter, and more aggressive. They'll no longer flashbang themselves into oblivion, and they've learned, or well, relearned, how to use ballistic shields. They lost those for a while. Enemies can also use melee weapons now. I got into VR for a sword fight, so this is perfect for me. The enemies may have gotten more dangerous, but so have I. I can now confidently run us through every encryption type at present. Static encryption has remained much the same, a simple target to shoot. Last time around, I complained hardened encryption focused on damage over accuracy, a tough shell that required a lot of firepower to take down, and so early in the round as well. The change that was come to was very clever. Hardened encryption is now an armoured shell around a weak point. Shotguns and high-powered weapons retain their advantage though, as pellets or penetration make for an easier shot, but accuracy can make up for lower-powered gear, popping it in one. This is just overall a good change. It makes the encryption more fair, but also adds more considerations into the mix. It's a greater challenge for the player's skills, not their equipment. Swarm encryption is the next change. Previously a bastard of an encryption, a floating ball surrounded by fast-moving weak points. Now its targets are larger, less numerous, and only move in response to attacks. This one was simply made simpler. The old one was monstrously hard to line up shots on, and I found it unrewarding. I would resort to spray and pray and just hope I had a weapon with the capacity to do so. Now, even if it's more straightforward, taking it down has a nicer and more thoughtful rhythm. As I hit one target, I know I'll spin the others, and I have to quickly weigh up where they'll go based on my actions. It feels rhythmic. When I'm in a flow, popping these feels very satisfying. Recursive encryption follows, and this is the first one to outright punish poor aim. Missing the protrusions and hitting the core will only create more targets to hit, so quick shots or automatic gunfire are now far riskier, and just don't even try with a shotgun. Stealth nodes slip in and out of view, requiring memorization and trying to steal moments of calm to scan for them, demanding attention where you might have little to give. Laser sights come into their own here, as even when faded, lasers will intercept the nodes. Agile encryption is a fast-moving target, but it telegraphs its moves. The player has to pick between trying to lead a shot or trying to hit it before it goes. There is a third option, however, suppression. As the node is placed under fire, it will slow down. So is it better trying to take it down quick and clean, or spend some time slowing it down beforehand? The biggest scoring metric is your time taking out encryption, the faster the better, with enemies taken down during holds being factored into your final score. So suppression is not optimal, but if playing casually, or if like me, accuracy isn't your best quality, you've got another option. This culminates in regenerative encryption. An indestructible core spits out weak points which need to be quickly destroyed. You can delay new tendrils from spawning by hitting the core. My rhythm tends to be bouncing between the core and its weak points, but if you're quick enough, you can get it in one. It's a relatively simple ending, but if I ever mess up my rhythm, I find it really hard to recover.
Ah! Damn it! Oh, so close.
I really like the changes to encryption. They've been made on the whole easier, but more engaging. Meanwhile, the enemies are harder, to even that out a little. Each encode type challenges different skills and puts different stresses on the player. A standard round has a really nice curve of difficulty and activity. Each weapon class has benefits and drawbacks with every encryption type, but any and all can get the job done if the player is up to the task. Familiarity, skill, and a good approach can make up for less raw firepower. And that's really what this mode is about. So yeah, since the last video, Take and Hold has really only gotten better and better. And so have I. Look, at least 50% of making this video was me just wanting to show that off. I've got a lot of clips. This improvement wasn't done in isolation. It came from a few places, beginning with comments on the last video offering hints and telling me what mechanics I was unaware of. Many of these tips remedied issues I had with certain weapons. Being able to store and grab multiples of items made loading shotguns, revolvers, and certain bolt actions far simpler. A nifty change since last video is that you will only ever grab what you need from a shared pool. No more littering. Unless you want to. Speaking of ammo, yes, I overlooked dispensers which let you re-roll ammo types, so shotguns and grenade launchers are not total gambles. If you spend all your points on one to only get smokes, you've still got a shot of getting something worth a damn. Bolt actions can be quickly cycled by using the trackpad to cycle the bolt without actually letting go of the weapon. This only works on the smaller bolt actions, but I rarely needed wine bottles to take out sausages. And weapon locking let me more quickly swap weapons, without worry that I'd just be dropping my gear on the ground. They just warp right back to their holsters. One gameplay addition has been streamlined controls. I love the index knuckles, but their trackpad leaves a lot to be desired. Still, I don't use streamlined controls since my muscle memory is pretty much set in stone at this point, but these might be handy to newcomers. To the commenters, I appreciate that the people giving me these hints weren't combative or condescending. They were genuinely helpful and seemed to come from a place of just wanting me to enjoy the game more. And I appreciate that when it seems like so many commenters on other videos just want to bite your head off over any little slip up when really, I had fallen on my ass not knowing so many mechanics. Especially since, well, everything I learn about H3VR, every single mechanic, no matter how niche, every little combat trick, somehow just perfectly slots into Take and Hold somewhere. It's a mode where I seemingly never stop growing. Whatever I pick up, its application is useful in some situation somewhere. From mechanical shortcuts which make using more complex weapons more straightforward, to tactical approaches which help with managing enemies, it's all cropped up as useful somewhere. One piece of advice I got from a comment I can sadly no longer find advised, everyone gets one before anyone gets two. And while it took some adjusting, I worked this into how I played, and it has helped so much. I went from struggling to take each and every foe, to taking out groups in one fluid motion. For a mode that, again, seems so simple, I'm happy to say that I don't think I've seen the bottom of it. Its depth just continues to astound me. The sausages remain an interesting and dynamic foe, just dangerous enough to keep me on my toes, but not so overbearing I can't try something crazy and have it work. It's an astounding balance that's been hit. Now, there is one trick I've learned that I am a bit more mixed on. With many two-handed weapons, firing one-handed is discouraged by insane kickback. So obviously you have to grip the thing with both hands. This not only surrenders a free hand, but, well, wielding a long gun in VR is a fair bit trickier than a one-hander. Despite all my practice, I always seem to be a little bit off with them. However, with many guns, just using a handgun grip, as in putting the two controllers near each other, will eliminate the recoil with none of the added difficulties of pivoting a gun along two separate controllers. It's so much easier, keeps a free hand for faster reloading, and about the only downside is that melee strikes are more awkward and less damaging. Which, yes, is still a consideration and is thus extra gameplay depth. Plus, obviously, there's the matter of bolt actions and pump shotguns. The point is, this doesn't quite feel in the spirit of the game. All that said, I am sort of apprehensive to say it should go. I can't speak to its intentionality, but I make use of it a ton. It helps me a lot. And yes, as said, there are gameplay trade-offs to this. But, well, I don't have all the answers, and I doubt I can go to the SAS and tell them they've been holding their guns wrong. Anyway, I've improved a lot, and that improvement was not done in isolation. It wasn't just from comments. but from a community event. One which showed me how much higher the skill ceiling of this game goes. Let's end off with something that made me approach the game in a whole new way. The First to Worst tournament is a community initiative headed by Putter My Pancakes and backed by a large, motivated, and friendly team, and aided by Anton. I took part in the second First to Worst tourney, a double elimination score attack tournament. You may have noticed the addition of seeds into Taken Hold. That was Anton helping the folks at First to Worst, making runs more level between participants. I should say, it was thanks to this event that I got a better grasp of how scoring works. Video tutorials and highlight reels were made as the games went on. The whole thing had a great sense of energy and community. People coming together to improve their skills and prove themselves. Tips were shared. People streamed to each other every day, watching other runs, learning from each other. It was fantastic. Considering its large scale, the thing ran like butter. The competition was tough but friendly, not a bad word to say about anyone I went up against, nor against the moderators who oversaw our runs. They were professional, they were on time, and they carried a sense of fun through the event. And this did change how I played the game. I started pushing myself, figuring out strategies and zeroing in on my playstyle, working around my weaknesses and finding my strengths. Which, it turns out, is close quarters brutality. I camped less and roamed more. More dead enemies means more points. The quicker foes are taken out, the sooner new ones come in. I started paying more attention to how the glitches in the air give previews of where encryption may wind up, so I'd try and land in a good spot to quickly take everything out. Now, I played this game to cut loose, and didn't much care for score, but it was refreshing to change my thinking and really try to improve. It was a rewarding experience, and hell, my previous goofier approach occasionally helped out, as the improvisation I cultivated occasionally helped me out in a pinch. Now, that didn't get me all the way, far from it. I fell in the third bracket thanks to frayed nerves and stiff competition. Still, the whole thing was fantastic. It gave such a great sense of community to what seems a purely solo game. It goes to show that single player doesn't have to mean a game experienced alone. Community can add a ton to any game if you want it to. Thank you to everyone in the First to Worst team, and I hope to enter the main event next year when I'll be older and rustier, and the other entrants younger and sharper. Seriously, I think the average skill level of the player base had shot up in the time during and after this event. I clawed my way up the leaderboards during my practice, and have been knocked down lower and lower. The game now has a friendly competition that I can choose to engage with, and I think that's a wonderful thing. You don't have to wait around either. Community tournaments are being ran in the meanwhile. The community still exists. If you search First to Worst, you'll find them, and you can join a friendly community of hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades players. And that's where we're at right now. It's still my favourite roguelite. This is still my favourite VR combat. I think I've improved a lot, but I'm happy to say I think it and I still have a lot of room to grow. The addition of modding and the friendly community surrounding it have given a lot to the game and my enjoyment of it. And of course, we can't forget Anton for his relentless work. My patrons should be scrolling past now, pretty fast as this is a short video, but this video will not be charged for. This is a short stop off along the journey. I held a poll recently for what we should be playing next, and well, B won, and B was Brigand, and that is having a lot of technical difficulties, so there is very likely to be shuffling. But we'll see how that pans out. Panama is on the to-do list, I promise that much. So, good night everybody, and I hope you'll join me next time.